What's up, everybody? And today we are reacting to Evolution of American Army Uniforms Animated History. This is by the Armchair Historian. Looks really cool. Another animated video. I'm really intrigued to learn more about the US military. Obviously, I am now a US citizen. I would love to know as much as possible about the US military. So this is the start. I'd love to know. I like the little things about the military, right? The way of training, the uniform, the weapons, the little things that each individual soldier has to deal with, not the grand scheme of things. So I love learning about that history. So we're going to learn that here. I'll leave a link down below. Make sure you go over there, like, subscribe, and all that good stuff, because I'm sure this video is going to be really good. They always are, these animated videos, especially by someone who's got 1.13 million subscribers. So I'm sure it's going to be fantastic. But before we get started, Original Adventures, guys, link down below to both the YouTube and Instagram. Me and my wife are converting a US school bus and traveling the country. It's going to be fantastic. Please go check it out. Original Adventures. There's 3 vlogs up right now. They're amazing. Go and check it out. Link down below. But for now, let's shut up and let's react to, if it loads, Evolution of American Army Uniforms Animated History. Let's go. Play, please.
Before we begin, let's highlight today's sponsor. Armored Warfare is a free-to-play action MMO featuring over 200 vehicles from a variety of nations. Take control.
Let's get past the ad. I get it.
Prior to the formation of a professional army, the 13 colonies were defended by militiamen, or Minutemen. These Minutemen fought in the opening battles of the American War of Independence, such as the battles of Lexington and Concord. In contrast to the British regulars they fought, they wore a patchwork of civilian clothing. The first American regulars were equipped with muskets, much like the rest of the world.
So he says patchwork then, so it was just civilian clothes, just kind of... And I get it, America didn't necessarily have their own army, so they had to just figure this thing out. So it was just a patch of civilian uniforms. That's pretty interesting.
During the first years of their existence, the American military was not formally organized until Prussian officer Friedrich von Steuben disciplined them into a true fighting force at Valley Forge, where Americans began habitually wearing uniforms. These newly professionalized soldiers marched to victories at Saratoga, Kings Mountain, and ultimately Yorktown, although Continental militiamen were used extensively for the entirety of the war.
Interesting.
Unlike their Musketeer counterparts, Morgan's Riflemen, who functioned as a light infantry force, carried a true rifle, the grooved barrels of which allowed the musket ball to spin for far greater accuracy. Uniforms of this period
Can we just say how good this animation is? It's fantastic. It's going very quick as well. Very quick. I really like, I don't know why, but this uniform here is giving me like New Zealand vibes. Has anyone got that from that? It's giving me like New Zealand vibes, and I might be talking crap there, but it really is. It's kind of cool.
Allowed the musket ball to spin for far greater accuracy. Uniforms of this period maintained a predominantly blue color palette. Although some details of the uniform evinced a Prussian influence, particularly the cuffs and collar. Officers continued to have edged weapons at their side.
There's a massive hat, guys. I'm not a fan of massive hats. Not a fan.
A popular piece for ranked individuals of most armies around the world.
It still happens.
The pommels of American sabers were styled after eagles' heads, further cementing the bald eagle as a symbol of American identity.
Speaking of bald eagle, I know this is super off tangent, but we've been driving up north to work on this school bus every weekend. And the last time we went up, it's a 2-hour drive up north in Maine. We saw 10 bald eagles. Not all in one go, just staggered throughout the whole journey. And I tell you what, every time you see one, it literally takes your breath away. Them things are incredible. Like beautiful animals. Like genuinely beautiful animals.
American forces were able to stand their ground and hold the line during the siege of Fort Texas. Although the blue color was still prominent, there was a noticeable change in headwear. Soldiers began to wear a type of visor cap, in contrast to the taller and somewhat less fashionable Chaco-style hats. Union troops, also known as Federals.
Wasn't it pausing? Them visor hats, we're starting to get into more of like a... Like, it looks like the bottom uniform is still kind of your dress code. So if you think about the US military, we've got you, or the British military, you've got your blues, we call them, or your number ones, and then you've got your regular uniform that you wear throughout the day, the camouflage, right? Blues is like your professional, going to dinner, celebratory, you know, uniform. But them uniforms are very much tailored after these old ones. It's more tradition, it's more for show. And you can tell the US is, I've seen a few US Marines in their uniform, and although it's not exactly like this, or the US Army, you can see these little bits and bobs that are like, oh, I see where it's coming from, but they're also starting to get more modern here.
Less fashionable Chaco-style hats. Union troops, also known as Federals, were outfitted in dark blue tunics and kepi hats borrowed from the French design. While this was the standard uniform for the Union, some regiments opted for entirely different uniforms. When the Confederate States seceded from the Union, the CS Army opted for a more gray and earthy tone. The Confederate soldier, for a good part of the early war period, had to make do with older, less effective muskets.
So, I don't know much about the Confederate War. I really don't. So they just turned theirs more grey than against the blue. I really don't know much about US military history, and that's why I'm watching these videos with you guys. That's why I'm watching them, because I really don't know much about it. I know that I know about the Civil War and all that lot. I just don't know really the intricacies or the political aspect of it. I don't really know much about that, if I'm honest with you. But I'd love to learn more. Let me know let me know in the comments if there's videos that you recommend that talk about it, because I'd love to watch them.
Zouaves were a class of light infantry regiments that were linked primarily with the French army units serving in North Africa during the time. In the US, it was a man by the name of Elmer E. Ellsworth who, before the war, ran a drill company called the Zouave Cadets, practiced in the manner of their French namesakes.
Have you noticed how the uniforms changed quite a bit, but the weapons haven't changed all that much between this time period, which is pretty strange, isn't it? I know it's not a massive time period, but if you compare the jump between the start of this to now, where we are in this video right now, and if you get that amount of time and add it on, the jump is crazy to where we are right now.
Such units were raised on both sides of the war, such as the Union's 11th New York Infantry, the New York Fire Zouaves. As the United States began its expansionist phase, the Army continued to modernize and adapt to the changing battlefield. While previously
So this musket was one of the first breech-loaded rifles adopted by the US Army. It was the nickname Trapdoor. Interesting. I'd love to shoot a musket. I've never shot one of them before. I bet that's so cool.
Introduced for far out western territories, the Montana peaked design hat was adopted by the Army as a service cover. The Army at this time also developed a tropical lightweight uniform for its campaigns in East Asia.
Cool.
When the United States entered the Great War, they
look at the jump. Look at the jump between this and this. That's crazy. Not only the uniform, but the weapons. They've now got a shotgun. Like the jump in technology when World War I and II happened is ridiculous. Second Battle of the Somme. Big battle.
Had adapted much of the appearance of their British counterparts. The steel Brodie helmet, often nicknamed a doughboy helmet, and khaki or olive drab battle dress. The American Expeditionary Force fought its way to victory on the Western Front.
So we're starting to see the color going towards more natural earth tones, right? We're starting to see this adapted to the environment kind of style. Which is pretty intriguing. You see that change as soon as World War I and II happens. That change happens quite drastically, and I don't know much about history, so I don't know whether it happened before then. But in this video, the change happened very drastically, where it shows the extent of World War I and II really pushed countries to innovate their military personnel, which is pretty crazy if you think about it.
The United States saw its ground forces make their debut in Operation Torch, fighting alongside the British in North Africa against the ferocious German Afrika Korps, ultimately driving the Nazis back to the Italian mainland.
Oh yeah.
Taking note of the effectiveness of the German Fallschirmjäger.
look at the difference between the start of World War One and the end of World War Two. Well, not the end, it's 1944, but you get what I'm saying. Like like I said, they had to innovate so much. The camouflage is way more apparent in the helmet, and obviously the uniform in general is like more earthy color tones again. Like, they really had to innovate. And I've heard that the progression of technology in war from the start of World War One to the end of World War Two was the quickest we've had in ages. Like, it was like we had a slow build, and then it was like boom up. And obviously now technology is developing, it's still going up at a crazy rate, but just the thought of the war that pushed people to innovate these tactics is just crazy.
Paratroopers, the US developed their own airborne troops who contributed greatly to victory in Europe.
If you go to France, there is a church. I forgot where it is. I went with the Royal Marines. There is a church where a US soldier got stuck with the parachute, right? And obviously they took the soldier down and stuff, but they put up a statue on the church of that US soldier stuck there. You can still see that today. It's not really a statue, it's more like a dummy, but they've made it look like that US soldier is still there, just as a representation to show that these US soldiers came and liberated that town. It was like a really small town, and it's amazing to see. You should Google it. I forgot what it's called, but there is still, and I'm pretty sure this is what they're doing right here with this church right here. It's fantastic.
From the night landings prior to D-Day to the invasion of Germany, American airborne infantry were crucial to the Allies' victory.
Yeah. M1 carbine. Hell yeah. Love to shoot one of them. Love to do it.
Rangers were elite light infantry forces organized in company-size formations. Rangers famously scaled Pointe du Hoc on D-Day to eliminate artillery pieces which the Germans had evacuated just prior.
Yeah.
But they also won fame in Italy at the Anzio beachhead prior to Operation Shingle. By the time of the Battle of the Bulge, airborne units had fought through most of German-occupied Europe and now held their own during the Siege of Bastogne.
So this was where they started getting SMGs, which is pretty impressive. Not that long of a distance between the start of World War II and this, or if you think the start of World War I and this, and now all of a sudden they've got SMGs. Holy crap.
From December 1944 to January of 1945, the battle-hardened Screaming Eagles of the 101st defended the city against determined German attacks.
Hell yeah.
United States Marines under the U.S. Navy formed the bulk of the ground forces in the Pacific Theater. They carried out the lightning-fast island-hopping campaign across Imperial Japanese territory, with Marines planting the Stars and Stripes on Mount Suribachi during the capture of Iwo Jima, becoming an iconic image of the Second World War.
That's that one where they're all like holding up the flag. Now, there is a picture of that, and I've been told, I don't know whether it's true, that they put the flag up during the battle, and then they wanted a picture, so they took it down and they put it back up again for the picture. I might be wrong, but I've heard that's the truth. Let me know in the comments down below.
The Army Air Forces was responsible for most of the aerial combat during the war. Widely recognized by their Hap Arnold Wings insignia and their famous winged propeller on their uniforms, the Army Air Forces were ultimately responsible for the 2 atomic weapons unleashed on Nagasaki and Hiroshima, swiftly, if not controversially, ending the war.
Incredibly controversial. Don't say if not controversially. Like, they were very controversial. They blew up cities, destroyed families, children, everything with them bombs. Now, I get it. We're at war. Japan wouldn't stop. But, man, it's devastating.
In the Pacific. Following the Second World War, they would be split from the Army to become the United States Air Force. Following the end of the Second World War, the United States infantrymen remained relatively unchanged in gear and appearance, though now they were a battle-hardened force experienced on all sides of the globe.
I know nothing about the Korean War. That's one thing I want to learn. The Korean War, Vietnam War, and the Civil War. I don't know much about them. I'd love to learn more.
By this time, the U.S. military as a whole had been desegregated by Executive Order 9981 of President Truman.
Okay.
During the Vietnam War, U.S. ground forces fought not only the North Vietnamese and their guerrilla warfare tactics, they fought against the tropical conditions of Vietnam itself.
Yeah. Yep. This guy's been running forever. Got the M16 now. Let's go, mate. Crack on.
Uniforms would wear and tear until they disintegrated off of a soldier's body. A torn-up uniform came to be a mark of experience and veterancy. When the war ended, many found themselves struggling to readjust to civilian life once they returned home.
Yeah.
Vietnam veterans remain the largest population of military vets to this day. In 1990, the Iraqi army marched into Kuwait. This was met with both economic sanctions by United Nations members and the largest coalition of allied nations since the Second World War.
It's crazy how the Gulf War, 1991, the year I was born, so 29 years ago, the uniform and stuff, you think of the Gulf War, you don't, I don't know why, but I don't think of it as that long ago. And yet, if you compare their uniform there to what it is now, it's a drastic change.
Live news broadcasts displayed U.S. forces clad in camouflage uniforms attuned to the desert environment during Operation Desert Shield and Operation Desert Storm in the following year.
Yeah.
When Kosovo declared independence in 1999, Serbian forces were sent in to reconquer the breakaway republic and began a campaign of ethnic cleansing. NATO forces intervened and ended the 78-day conflict.
Can we just say how good this animation is? I just want to pause it and appreciate how good this is. He's got information here about the weapons that he's not even reading out as well, which are all fantastic, which I might go back and look through at some point.
U.S. forces were equipped with new body armor derived from earlier flak vests during the Vietnam War. The tragic attacks on September 11, 2001, saw the American troops march into the Middle East to begin the international campaign known as the Global War on Terror. To adjust to the desert environment, troops were issued an improved desert camouflage uniform and equipment that assisted them in this new battlefield dominated by urban combat.
Yeah.
In time, the U.S. Army saw fit to consolidate their camouflage patterns. Rather than having two separate ones, it was decided to attempt a universal pattern. This pattern became the face of the American soldier for over a decade until the Army then realized how ineffective this pattern was.
Well, the pattern's always going to change. It's always going to change until it's literally perfect, which I don't think it ever will be perfect, because they've always got to innovate, haven't they?
Soldier now wears proper battle dress as the fight against terrorism continues in the Middle East. Army infantrymen primarily train at Fort Benning, Georgia, dubbed the home of the infantry. As of 2019, the U.S. Army introduced a new service uniform that harked back to the days of the Second World War and Korea, a modern iteration of the pinks and greens.
That's
the
cool.
uniform that the greatest generation made famous during the 1940s and 1950s.
That's cool.
In Arlington National Cemetery, soldiers of the 3rd Infantry Regiment, dubbed the Old Guard, stand sentinel at the tomb of the unknown soldier. These sentinels remain as guardians 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
What is the guard of the... I don't know what that is. The unknown soldier? Like, what is that?
365 days a year since April 1948. Their duty is to guard and honor those who died in combat, but whose identities remain unknown.
So it's more of an idea, more of a regarding these soldiers. Even though they don't know who they are, they still serve the country, and that's just as important than anything else. And I get that. Great video. I'll leave a link down below to the OG video. Make sure you go over there, like, subscribe, because that was fantastic. The animation was fantastic, and I actually learned a lot. The uniforms changed drastically over time, and I think it's fantastic that they innovate. The jump, though, from World War I to the end of World War II is crazy. They really did have to innovate. Let me know in the comments. I had quite a lot of questions in that video. I'd love to see some of your answers in the comments down below. I love reading them. They're all fantastic. Members, you're amazing. I love you. I couldn't do this without you. I honestly couldn't make videos every single day if it wasn't for these members right here. So thank you for supporting the channel as much as you do. I truly appreciate it. Links down below to Original Adventures. Me and my wife are converting a school bus and traveling the whole of the US. It's going to be fantastic. I'm very excited, and I know you guys are really going to enjoy the vlogs. Me and my wife have put some really hard work into that. My wife's really looking after the Instagram and the YouTube for that channel, so definitely go check that out. She's put some good work into it. Links down below to my socials, including the 2 links to Discord. We've got the military link and the geek link. Also a link down below to my podcast and my Twitch stream, where I stream every Tuesday and Thursday. And also a link down below to my second channel, Original Human Geek, where we play D&D and a bunch of other Awesome, fun stuff. So definitely go and check all that out. Until next time, guys, I love you all. Have a wonderful weekend. Goodbye.